Network to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
All right, look, man, it's Ebro, it's Laura's Rosenberg. Laura's handling the baby. She's on assignment. You got me and Rosenberg sitting down with Jermaine O Neal, new documentary.
It's
Untold.
out today, Ebro. Out today.
It's out today. Untold. Right. Malice at the Palace. Now, Jermaine, listen, I've known you for many years. First of all, I just want to say thanks for coming on the program. Second of all, I want to say just what I was just saying off the air. You look magnificent, sir. You look like you are living your best life right now. Tell us what's going on with you, man.
Man, first and foremost, man, I appreciate you guys having me on. Ebro, I've been knowing you for, man, it seemed like about 20 years now.
Yeah, man.
But it's, man, I just been, following a lot of my passion. Obviously, when you play in the league, for 18 years, man, that becomes a lot of who you are, especially when you come in at 17. So I spent most of my adult life in the NBA, but now I'm into my second chapter. Obviously, film is one. You got the great documentary that's coming out. I know we'll get to that in a second. I think most importantly, beyond anything that I do, I'm a parent too. My daughter's at the University of Texas playing volleyball.
Wow.
Jermaine is hooping now, going into his freshman year. I think he got a real chance.
Yeah.
But I got a sports complex I built 5 years ago. We've had guys like Cade Cunningham, who's just the #1 pick.
Right.
RJ Hampton, that was drafted last year. Tyrese Maxey drafted last year. Jamias Ramsey, and then we got Drew Timme at Gonzaga. So, trying to give back to the community that what was given to me when I was a youngster, and giving these kids and these parents tools and information that they can use to take the next step.
So, before
real quick, I think you were struck by one thing, which is like when we came on, you were like, wow, Jermaine, you look great, blah, blah, blah. I think what's unusual, Jermaine, is that you've been out of the league for so long at this point that it's almost surprising to see how young and good you look. But then you remind us your career started at 17 years old.
Yeah,
so you were 35 when you retired.
Man, listen, I started getting pension at 35. That's crazy to think.
That's beautiful, though. It's beautiful.
Man, it's a wonderful thing, man. And I feel blessed in many ways, man. Obviously, it was a crazy year that everybody just came off of, and get an opportunity to jump right back into things, and have partnerships and relationships that I've created throughout the years, man. That's what it's all about.
So I think it's important, because we will get into talking about this documentary, and I've seen, Stephen Jackson talking about it. I've seen Artest talking about it. I haven't seen clips of you talking about it, and I would love to hear, before we get into it, how you are dealing with mentally seeing this footage and reliving this thing again, right? Because you did start in the league as a high school player. You were a young man.
Yeah.
Living your dream, which already being 17, 18 and getting that amount of money and that amount of pressure and that amount of expectation and, and still becoming a man, still becoming an adult and figuring out who you are in the world all at the same time is a lot. We've seen that story not play out well for people, right?
Right.
So there's that aspect. But then this traumatic incident of what took place as a player, you're at work, basically living, doing something that you love. And this thing takes place. How are you as a human being in this moment, seeing this stuff again? And is it bringing up any old pain and trauma for you?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I think to start, going to Portland right out of high school was really my college one-on-one, at 17 years old. So it gave me an opportunity to learn a lot. My first 4 years, so I had a lot of different teammates to change the team, quite a bit. So one of the things that I learned right away was, take bits and pieces of things that you like, from different teammates and understand, some of the things that they didn't do as well and stay away from those things, right? And so I was able to learn on the job, and I've been truly blessed, throughout my career, especially my first 5 to 10 years, to play with some really good players that did some really good things on and off the court. And fortunately as well, I probably should say fortunately for myself, I've been able to see things that guys didn't do as well. Now, to lead into this actual doc, I don't think it's a template, right, that can tell you how to deal with something like that, right? Because you go into a facility or arena and to play basketball, and you end up in a full-fledged brawl, with people trying to hurt you. And I can tell you this, man, like I looked to do this doc for about 10 years now, right? I sat down with a lot of different producers and directors. I wanted to do a doc, executive producer, a doc that didn't alienate, a league that I care about so much, right? I'm an alumni of the NBA, and I'm never going to do anything or say anything to alienate those guys, or even the Indiana Pacers, which gave me an opportunity to really put my footprint, on the league. So I end up, having a meeting, with Netflix. Shout out to Netflix. It's obviously Netflix is one of the biggest sites, in the world when it comes to movies and documentaries. Shout out to the Way brothers, Floyd Russ, who's the director of the film, who really captured, exactly what I was looking to try to do as well. And shout out to the Untold Stories, right? Being a part of the series of sports Untold Stories, man. Even though the Malice has been told a little bit, but not to the level that we were able to do it, in this particular doc. So I'm excited about it. One of the things that I felt salty about, to be completely honest, over the years, was it was a narrative, created about myself and other players, and I'm going to talk about myself in particular. Is that when you watch the doc, there's some people that are saying crazy things like criminals, the braids, tattoos, hip hop, right? It was a direct attack on culture, right? And that's why I felt like it was more of an attack on the Black players, right? And the judgment, and nobody really even knew what happened. They just saw it on television, and they just felt like they need to get on a panel and talk about the players. And so I was salty about that. I never really spoke about it. That's the reason why you never really heard me speak about it, because it felt like it was celebrated a little bit and not really actually talked about it, in an educated way.
Well, and also I think deeper than that is, altercations amongst, people competing in something physical happens all the time. We see it in sports, all over the place. Like that happens, right? And so I think it was Ben Wallace went for a layup, Artest with a hard foul. Ben Wallace got upset. Artest, was at this phase in his career where he was doing this thing where he would walk away and like try to stay completely away from any incident, that was a part of like, I think where he was just at mentally. So he goes and lays on the table. What started the fight wasn't where it went, wasn't a player. It was a fan, a white fan, who threw something at a Black player. And then to hear you say just now that you saw the media attacking the players, that was a fan.
Right.
Like these are emboldened fans, right? These are, and even here today, like in this, like we saw it, didn't we just see it in the last season in the playoffs? Fans throwing things at players. And Rosenberg will tell you, I was on the air like, yo, one of these fans gonna get their ass whooped, and I ain't gonna feel bad for him.
Yeah, 100%. Well, but it's so there's so much nuance here, right? Because I remember that night really, really well. Where I was, it's one of those sports moments, you remember where you were when you watched it. And I remember simultaneously thinking, I was so disgusted with the fans, the fan who did it, who ended up not being the person who got punched first, because obviously it's hard for Ron Artest in that setting to know exactly who threw what, but to not only be disgusted with the fan, Jermaine, but then also there's no way to look at the whole thing and not kind of just put your head in your hands and go, this whole thing looks like a disaster.
Right. So I think it's important. That's why I would highly recommend people check out the doc. It's out today. Check it out for sure. So you got me, Ron, and Jack, involved in this. And I think everybody is looking at this thing in a different format. I take Jack, for example. I've been knowing Jack, Steven Jackson, since high school, right? We've been brothers since high school. And he is a protector by nature, and sometimes even to a fault, right? He's going to stand, in the line of fire. He's there to support. And obviously when Ron went up there, all bets were off, right? Fans in there swinging, whatever it may be. He goes in there and does what he needs to do to help his brother. Ron, the thing about Ron is, so back then, people that mental health wasn't spoken about in sports, right? It was almost saying, if you said that, you know, you said mental health, you were saying that this person's crazy, and basically that's the death of a career, right? That's like a blown out Achilles, you know, ACL back then, right? Where it was hard to come back from. So wasn't a lot of literature, a lot of information about mental health as it is today, right? You see it in the Olympics and all over the place when it comes down to, you know, to people speaking about their mental health and how that's impacting. Well, for us as his teammates, we didn't even know, you know, but we knew he had a psychiatrist. We knew he had, you know, she was always around, traveled with us, all of that. But it was nothing ever really told to us. So when I saw the doc, so when we filmed the doc, we filmed separately. We never filmed together, right? And so I saw the rough cut of it. It was the first time I actually heard him speak about his challenges, right? And so when you look at his steps on how he dealt with his mental health, it almost played out in real time, right? First, Ben Wallace grabs him by his neck and push him, right? That starts the motor, right? It starts the motor. Then goes and lays down, and Ben Wallace is still throwing the armbands. And that's a whole nother conversation, because fans typically react to whatever we do, right? Whatever we say, especially when we home, right? So he's throwing all these armbands, and you see Ron jump back up, and he's trying to tell the refs to get Ben, and he goes back and lay down. And then he's into his 5 count, which I never heard him speak about. And all of a sudden, a cup of beer comes, and the water's already boiling over. Right. At that point, he loses it. He goes and reacts in the best way that he knows possible at the time. Again, you're dealing with mental health, right? And so then you go to me. So you see me sliding in and hitting the guy, right? It's plenty of other footage that could have been used that was not used to show exactly what happened. So I'm standing there. I got a security guard next to me, and you'll see him in the dock. He's a white guy in a suit. He's an FBI agent, and he's holding on to me while I'm going through the tunnel. So you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But so I'm standing there before I run and hit the guy. I'm standing there, and somebody jumps up and grabs me around my neck. Right. So in a point where you see fans coming from everywhere, they're on the floor, and somebody grabs you around your neck, your initial reaction is going to be heightened. That's right. I slam the guy on the table, happen to look to my left and see Anthony Johnson. So when you see me slide in there, punch the guy, you'll see a guy in a brown suit and a cast on his hand. He's on the floor, and the guy that I hit is standing over him. Right. And so my reaction as a leader is to protect myself and others when it ain't nobody in there to protect the players with the uniforms on, right? And so these are the narratives that people never even chose to even research. And the fact of the matter is, guys, is that I went to court. I took the NBA to court. People think that I went and got, I served my suspension and everything, and I did not. I went through arbitration, got to federal court in New York, got reinstated because the federal judge said that I had the right to do what I did. That was never spoke about. It was, the people were cool with saying these are out of control black players that are beating up, white fans. And that was a real problem for me, because that was stuck to me like a tattoo.
Well, that narrative plays into how our society's been programmed against black men. Like that's the easy out. That's a part of our society, even still to this day. Right. To villainize the black athlete, right? Even look at what just happened to Simone Biles. Yeah, there were people who were villainizing Simone Biles for saying, for my own safety and the betterment of my team, I need to take a break. There's something going on with me that ain't safe and ain't right. And they villainize little Simone Biles.
Right.
Let alone
these dudes who are 6'5", 7 feet tall, fighting like it's. And at that time, my God, society, man, there's no way people, especially we've seen how divided this country is, Jermaine. Right. Imagine how people took that in, like they weren't gonna. And to me, it was a perfect moment where you got to see how a lot of those fans really thought of players. And I don't think it's a high percentage. I'm sure you would agree. I'm sure most NBA fans are incredibly respectful of the players and appreciate what you guys do.
Yeah.
But there's some people out there who think you guys are really there to entertain them and practically work for the fans. And you saw that privilege come out in that moment.
Well, even deeper than that, Rosenberg, they still see black men as property. That's a part of what is the fabric of this society. And going all the way back to slavery, that these phenomenal specimens of human beings are white people's property. And I can do whatever I want to them with no repercussions. And they learned today, didn't they, Jermaine?
So I'm gonna say this, right? So I think it's a great balance, right? And so you guys are 100% right. It is a small percentage of people out there that really believe that we actually work for them. They think that $50, $80, $100, $200, whatever they pay for those tickets, give them the right to treat us any kind of way. And I always tell people, rule of thumb is, don't do anything in that arena that you won't do to a person standing in front of you outside that arena, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spitting on us, throwing things on us, trying to hit us or whatever it is. That is a rule of thumb that I think fans should hold on to. But I do believe it's a balance, right? Because I love the idea of going into opposing, arena and playing against that adversity. Yeah, that's what makes pro sports what it is, right? It's a great relationship between the fans. We need the fans. The fans need us. And in many ways, it brings comfort, right? A lot of people go through a lot of different things on a day-to-day basis. And sports is kind of that safe haven, right? But you have to understand that we are human, right? That is entertainment, right? It's we have real lives. We go back home to our families, kids, and whatever else that comes with being in the real world and real life. And I think, the NBA is doing a better job on holding people accountable, banning them for life, keeping them away from that. Obviously, I feel like we have the greatest league in the world, which is basketball in the NBA. So it's, I'm gonna tell you guys, like, a lot of people can have a lot of, say a lot of things. And I remember going through that process because we had no template to deal with that. The NBA had no template to deal with it back then. It was just more like reaction. And all of a sudden now the NBA is under attack. And I think for me as a player who felt privileged to be that true 1 percentile that get opportunity to play a game that he loves and take the economics that changes everything about me and my family generationally, right? And watch my league and my peers be under attack, by, and to be honest, by people that supposedly are well respected, and even some of them that I really respect, to say the things that they said, right? And have no information, to back up what they're saying. And they created this narrative about players, which built into other things. So I was very sensitive about that. And that's why I was so excited about getting an opportunity to do a doc in this partnership with Netflix.
And after this doc, are you putting this story away? Was like, is this the moment for you to talk about this and you're moving on after?
Man, it's over. I'm gonna tell you, bro, I get these questions all the time. We're talking about that was 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And people feel like, I was out in Vegas 2 weeks ago coaching my son's 8th grade team, and I literally got asked about this thing over 10 times. Every time people see us like that, Jermaine, tell me about the brawl, tell me about the fight, y'all just, beating people up. That's not really what it's about. Can you imagine being in an NBA arena and you are stuck on the floor as a player over 10 minutes after everything starts, every exit blocked from fans, right? And not have anybody in there of security supporting you. And then when the security actually gets there, which is the police, they're trying to pepper spray us with the uniforms on. Can you imagine that, right? People trying to take these chairs and they're trying to hit you with them, right? They're taking water bottles and lining you up. Bro, by the time we actually got, I remember there's 3 things that I remember about that night vividly. I remember trying to get through the tunnel. You got hit with every single thing. I remember going into the locker room and it was like like a scene out of a movie, because you see people with torn jerseys, bleeding, knots and lumps, popcorn debris and everything in their head, and people just kind of just staring and looking. And I remember saying, like, damn, like, what just happened? right? And then it was a situation where I remember once everything finally calmed down, it was like this crazy aura in there where people knew that our season was over. And people remember we had the best record at the time.
Right.
And we were projected to compete for the championship.
Yes.
Right? And I was like, I knew hell was coming. And to walk into a sporting facility and be treated like that, that was a hard pill to swallow.
Do you recall any conversations with? And I believe in that time he's still president of the team. What was Larry Bird like in the time after the situation?
We actually didn't have any conversation. To be honest, I remember I had a conversation with Donnie Walsh, who was he was the president. Larry Bird was president of basketball operations.
Right.
But it was like, it was a moment that I don't think anybody knew what to even say, because it was
unprecedented.
It was unprecedented. And it wasn't like it was like, it happened that day. And then, a couple of days later, they came and they did all the investigation. It happened that day. I got a call the next day from the league office, and my agent got on the conference call, and a couple hours later, suspensions were handed down. I'm talking about, you're not even talking about 48 hours later, right?
No investigation, no context, no nothing.
No, nothing. In a situation like that, you have to almost wait. Right, you have to do your due diligence, and again, the late great David Stern, which is a phenomenal commissioner who built that league, right? He was under all sorts of pressure because again, everything is a bottom line scenario, right? The owners, they spend a lot of money on these teams. You affect the bottom line, it's hell to pay, right? And when you have the national media coming down and saying, look, these are thugs, these are hoodlums, they should be banned, and then people starting to talk about sponsorship should be pulled from the NBA. What you think they're going to do?
Right.
We become expendable. And I understood that because we were toxic at the time. But the thing for myself, and I'm going to speak for myself and not Ron and Jack, because I know they want to speak for themselves, is that they had the information on me. They saw what I did. They saw what happened. They saw the reason why I did what I did, because I was under fire with fans on the court. See, I never made it to the stands.
No, but you did lay out maybe the cleanest punch of the whole brawl.
Yo, the run and slide in was so mean.
but listen, man,
I watched that 100 times. Like, yo, he's moving and he's sliding at the same time with the bow.
But man, it's funny. It's easy to laugh about it now. But think about this, bro.
No, it was terrible at the time.
I'm on hardwood. The amount of beverages that were coming from the stands.
Oh, super slippery.
Right. It was beer and water and everything everywhere, bro. I mean, just think about that, right? I'm slipping on the hardwood because of all the stuff that was thrown on the court. And again, the NBA, every NBA arena has about 26 to 28 camera angles. And so when I took the NBA to court to get reinstated, they had to give that up. Right. And so that is footage that could have been used, right, to make decisions. But at that point, it was like, okay, well, we can't really wait on this, right? People are asking for heads to roll. Players are going to put you on the island. That's it, right? I got that. But after, hell, even a year, right, say something. Right? Especially when people were trying to hurt us, right? Don't have us out there sitting looking like, and I'm just saying, don't have me out there sitting looking like I was trying to just beat up, run around and slide punch.
Hey. Well, it's also too, like, putting all of what we're talking about in this conversation together, right? You have no disdain for the NBA. Like, that's not where it is. What I hear you saying is this was an unprecedented event. That if it happened again the same way today, the NBA, because of what you guys went through and because of where the NBA is at today, would unequivocally protect those players put in that same predicament where fans attacked them and they felt defenseless and had to defend themselves.
Exactly, right. We became the template. We became the template for what you should do, right? When it comes down to something like that happens. I don't even think, bro, I'm gonna tell you, the separation of the players, when you look at this doc, how long that went on, right? So that was one thing. They didn't separate the players quick enough, right? And so if you don't separate players quick enough, the temperament of fans,
it goes,
right? And that's the thing that, like, I watch now, like, even if it's like a light push, like, it's everybody running out there grabbing the players. And so, the NBA is well educated on protocol now, what to do when players get tangled up. But I love the NBA, right? I have nothing but love for the NBA. I have nothing. This was not a doc to incriminate anybody. This was a doc to tell the story. So now people can have the information on what it is that happened that night and not listen to some idiot on a panel that is speaking on something that they don't even know.
That's right.
They're for somebody else.
And in the end, though, like, the Pacers, you didn't feel condemned by the Pacers. You felt generally supported by the Pacers?
I did not feel supported by the Pacers. But I understand why. Like, at the time, I understood why, right? It's like,
it's easier to villainize. Let's just keep it real. In that moment, in that time in history, and even still today, a little bit, it's easier for corporations and entities that are lazy to villainize black men with braids and tattoos than it is to stand up for them.
I would say I want to be fair to the Pacers, right? So the Pacers, small market team that was feeling the national pressure, right? It was literally, like, I don't think they said anything about me, but as well, they had the information even when I was reinstated.
But they didn't say anything for you either.
Right. But I think, again, when you're in a small market in that business and you're trying to fight for ticket shares, and you got the Indianapolis Colts and right across the street, who's very successful at the time, and you're trying to take up market space, right? So I understood that, Brad. And fellas, I'm saying this because I'm a business owner, so I get it. Like, I'm a lot more mature now than I was back then. I was angry because I was like, damn, like, I'm out here giving them what they asking me to give them, but you have an opportunity to step up and say something to me, say something about me, and you didn't. And I don't want to get into the point where saying, like, y'all did me wrong, but the fact of the matter, they never spoke up for me. And to a point, to this very day, that relationship is hampered a little bit because I feel like they understand what happened. I understand what happened, but nobody wanted to talk about it.
And so those conversations never really happened, you're saying, like with Bird or Donnie Walsh, really, like, you guys really never had a full, let's sit down and talk through all of it. Never.
I think too, because when it happened, like, they banned us from everything. Like, we couldn't go to anything that said NBA. No practice facilities, no games. I remember having a lot of my daughter at the time, when I was watching the games on television, I was like, she's like, why are you not at the game? I said, well, this is just a tape. Like, I'm watching a recorded version of the game, because I didn't want her to know what happened, and she ended up finding out in school. But we never spoke about it. Shout out to Donnie Walsh, because he's on the doc as well. He did a phenomenal job on talking about the entire situation. I think you guys will have a really good perspective, once you watch it tonight on actually what happened.
I'm going to watch it right when we get off here, man. I can't wait to watch it. It's Untold, the Malice at the Palace on Netflix.
Jermaine, man, thank you for your time. Shout out to our brother Ron Artest, Stephen Jack. Ben Wallace. Have you ever had any combo with Ben Wallace around this?
I have not. He's actually on it. He's on the doc.
Yeah, but I know, but that's why I'm wondering, because you said everybody shot their stuff, and then it was kind of like, it was put together, but nobody I don't know if you guys have actually talked.
So me, Ron, and Jack, we talk.
Right.
And I got to say this, right? Because when me and Ron played together, it was very heated. Like I did not at the time respect what he was doing. I respect what he did on the court. He's one of the hardest working players I've ever seen. He was just dynamic, right? He was locking people up, and he was just too big, too strong for people offensively. But like we had this thing, right? You know, he was jealous of me. He's on record on saying that I was angry with him, and we were still winning because we enjoyed playing basketball, but we did not necessarily care for each other. So I want to say from my perspective, right? And I told Ron this. We had our first sit-down conversation 2 years ago since the brawl.
Wow.
Right? You're talking about 15 years later, right? And I apologized to him because I could have been a better brother, a better teammate if I had the information that I had today about mental health, right? Once I started to understand, like, you know, the struggle that he's going through on a day-to-day basis, a great fight amongst himself, he didn't need a person that he's spending the majority of his days with, his weeks with, his months with, you know, at him all the time about whatever, right? And again, he used to disappear. He wanted to retire a couple of times. He was rapping at the time, so he wanted to take time off for that. I mean, he just like he would just like leave. Like, I mean, he left one time and went down to the, you know, for the Source Awards during the season, and he was presenting the award, and we ain't know where he was, right? And so we're trying to win a championship, so I'm angry, right? But I'm uneducated,
Right,
about what mental health is, and so I got to shout Ron out, man, because that's a lot, man. Knowing what I know about him now and what he was going through then, I felt bad. I felt bad that I wasn't the teammate that could help bring him in the foxhole to make him feel more comfortable, make him feel more wanted, make him understand that we understood, right?
that
And
you
so,
needed him, that you loved him.
yep.
Yo,
Yeah.
Ron, I've known Ron for years, man. He is all about love.
Yeah.
That dude is all about love, and more love. Like,
Yeah.
he is one of the most just phenomenal, genuine dudes. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And yeah, man. It's great to hear you say that, man. Like, you know, we've all come such a long way, you know, in our paths, that you get to that point where hopefully, you know, and you know, you hope that what we know now as adults, and when we impart wisdom on our children,
Right.
that they get to it faster, you know what I mean? So that they could avert some of the mistakes and you know. But yeah, man, it's great to hear you say that. Proud of you, man. You know,
Right.
phenomenal to get to this point.
But I appreciate it, man. You know, it's interesting. We all wish we knew what we know now back then. Like, we're being, you know, much better people in better situations. But I think life has its way of talking to us and dealing with us. And I think now that we're, you know, with me and Ron, we're older. Me, Ron, and Jack was joking on text last night, you know, about, you know, kind of what we're gonna do watching the doc. I watched it 10 times already, but Ron has not seen it yet. Jack has seen it, but I just gotta, you know, for everybody that's always supported us, you know, I want to thank everybody, you know, through that process, man. That was a hard time for us, and we got a lot of love, you know, in many of our communities, and support. And, you know, again, it's nothing that can teach you how to deal with that, especially at 24, 25 years old. You know, and you live through it, and now we can take all that information that we've learned and hand it off to the next generation of players and people, you know, in our communities.
Jermaine O Neal, thank you so much, sir.
I appreciate it. Ebro, man, congratulations, brother. I remember, you know, our conversation way back when out in Portland.
Yeah.
Man,
we had some fun in Portland.
Yeah.
We had some fun, man. Yo, shout out to Rasheed Wallace, wherever you are, sir.
Yeah, that's my guy. And that's crazy too. People don't realize that, you know, I know we got to go, but the Pistons and the Pacers, we were all friends.
Right.
But in that era, it was either you or me on that court, right? It's a little bit different today where you can see the friendship. We didn't care much about each other on the court. So yeah, shout out to Chauncey, Rip, Ben, all those boys.
Yeah, man. Take care, Jermaine. Love
Thanks,
you, bro.
Jermaine.
All right, man. See y'all
Peace,
later.
man.